The return of Hong Kong to China on July 1st, 1997, was an immensely proud moment for China. With its image of a progressive, modern and prosperous city, Hong Kong was seen as a vibrant crossroad of East and West, one that could offer the way forward for China, or how it might become one day. But 22 years on, Beijing does not rely on the special administrative region as much as it did. Chinese cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen have all surpassed Hong Kong in terms of its economic importance. Last year, Shenzhen's GDP alone surpassed that of Hong Kong.
The fact that Hong Kong is now a lot less important in terms of its economic size relative to the rest of China is much smaller than it was at the handover. The importance that the Chinese government places on foreign international opinion has also diminished. In more recent years, China's been willing to kind of take the pushback from countries like the US and the UK on Hong Kong because it feels stronger and more powerful in its own right.
Me growing up, Shenzhen is only a fishing village. Today, they are the Silicon Valley of China. So if we don't start to pay attention and care about what's happening in China, then we will easily be made irrelevant.
While other Chinese cities are growing at breakneck speed, Hong Kong has been mired by never-ending disputes between Beijing-backed government and the pro-democracy activists. There have been at least 5 major anti-government demonstrations since the city's return to China, all of them united by a common goal: resisting what they perceive as an increasing Chinese influence and interference into Hong Kong's affairs. Since the territory's handover, they've been fighting to preserve their freedom and personal liberties, as spelt out in the Basic Law.
There is this feeling that mainland China is forcing change on Hong Kong that the territory doesn't want.
In 2003, the city's first chief executive, Tung Chee-hwa, tried to pass Article 23, a national security law that criminalizes treason and sedition against the Chinese Communist Party. After a peaceful march of 500,000 people, the proposal was shelved indefinitely. In 2012, tens of thousands of Hong Kongers took to the streets to protest against a proposed bill to include national education in the school curriculum. The people saw it as an attempt to brainwash Hong Kongers. The government under Chief Executive C.Y. Leung later backed down and gave the discretion to all schools on whether to implement the curriculum. The Umbrella Movement, or Occupy Central, in 2014 almost brought the city to a standstill. The 79-day peaceful sit-in demanded universal suffrage, the right to choose their own leader, instead of limiting it to a list of candidates pre-approved by Beijing. Protests ended without any concessions from the central government. In 2019, history has been written yet again as anger mounted over the proposed introduction of the Extradition Bill.
I think this is the biggest political crisis since the handover.
The Extradition Bill really hit at the cornerstone of what the Basic Law had promised, because the Basic Law, most important to Hong Kong people, is about the one country, two systems. And with this Extradition Bill, if it passed, it means that one country, two system would totally be destroyed.
Meeting and speaking to Bonnie Leong for the first time, it would be difficult to guess this is the same lady who's behind the biggest protests that Hong Kong has ever witnessed. The mild-mannered and soft-spoken 30-year-old is the convener of the political party Civil Human Rights Front, which organized the 1 million and 2 million protests on June 9th and June 16 respectively.
This is very personal, and also Hong Kong is my home. I do not want to see Hong Kong would become a place without rule of law, without freedom, without human rights. If that is so, Hong Kong will no longer be a home that I would want to keep living in. We really need to protect our home and make our home a better place, make our home as it should be.
This yawning gap between Beijing and Hong Kong looks to widen in the years to come, despite the influx of Chinese from the mainland into the tiny city.
Beijing expectation was that after 20 years, 30 years, maybe because of the sheer number of mainland Chinese settling down here, the mindset is going to change. Well, the result has been, in Beijing's point of view, pretty disappointing. What has happened actually is that most mainland Chinese people moving to Hong Kong have become Hong Kongese in a way. They've started to also identify with Hong Kong values. Not only pick up Cantonese because they want to be part of the community here, but also adopt many of the political values which most Hong Kong people cherish. So a lot of people want to protect Hong Kong the way it is. So some people are going to leave, but most young people I think are going to stay and try to fight for Hong Kong.
We are prepared to sacrifice a lot to fight, to protect all these values. If we can build up this system, we can be a showcase for China, and we can be an influence to China to modernize their political system. That is a lot of Hong Kong people would hope to achieve.
Come 2047, one country, two systems, formulated by China's former leader Deng Xiaoping, will come to an end. So is this act of defiance nothing more than a futile effort?
The basic law doesn't say that by 2047 it would expire. So what will happen post 2047 is obviously a question that we need to address. Meanwhile, we need to do everything we can to protect the freedoms and rights of the Hong Kong people as enshrined under the basic law, and to ensure they will not continue to erode.
I think some people might feel that the better future for Hong Kong is to be further insulated from the mainland. Whereas I would disagree. I would agree that Hong Kong's future is very much China's future. So we should definitely try to be more understanding to what's happening to China. But I certainly understand there are groups out there who say, well, we prefer not.
The democratic activists may have scored a moral victory by getting the extradition bill shelved indefinitely. But is it an admission of defeat on the part of Beijing? Or is it more of a tactical retreat? No matter what the position is, it's clear that Beijing still holds the trump card.
Xi Jinping is not the type of guy to make compromises. And the worry quite for a number of observers here is that they will take their revenge sooner or later.